Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. I am your host, Ghoulish Professor Jeremy Vilmur, and joining us now, Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, Double B, Bobby Blaze.
And that's right, I'm not Bobby Ricardo, the Night Stalker Blaze. I'm Double B, the Glock-carrying crazy SOB that'll shatter your brains everywhere if you try to carjack me. Woo, I'm telling you, Double B, baby. Double A set him on fire the other night in A&E. Talk about carrying a Glock and blowing people's brains out, Professor.
Oh, I haven't caught that yet. I still need to get caught up on stuff that happened this week.
Yes, well, I just want to throw it out there right at the beginning. I'm Double B, baby, Bobby Blaze. Glad to be back here at the good Ghoulish Professor. It's October, and I know that Professor's one of his favorite months, and I know he loves Halloween, and I know we got a lot of good stuff planned for the rest of this month. But yeah, that promo Arn did, boy, he just called Cody out, and you want me to give you a spoiler alert? It's been out there for a couple of days. He was trending on 2 or 3 nights in a row, two for sure. Of course, everyone's probably seen all the memes now, but if you haven't seen the video, it's about 2 minutes, 25 seconds, something like that. He's basically calling Cody out. Arn's got that one kind of bad hand, the left hand that he had his damage done to, and he's just kind of talked to him. And you can see that's really prevalent during the promo, the way he's just putting his hand out talking to Cody, not touching him, but his hand's up near his face, just explaining himself. And basically he just says to Cody, I'm Double A, I'm Arn Anderson. And the difference between you and me, and he says if someone come up to, I'll paraphrase it, says something, if you come up to carjack, you'll open your door, or they'll come in your car door, and you'll be the guy going, oh, please don't hurt me. Take it, take the car, take whatever, just don't hurt me, whatever. He goes, that's the difference between me and you, Cody. He goes, I'm Arn Anderson. And he slid his right hand, made the indication of a gun. He said, I'm demanding to take this Glock and reach over, and he put his hand right up by Cody's head. I'm surprised they even got by with it. And, emulated like this is the gun. And he said, and I'll splatter their brains or blow to your brains the kingdom come or something like that, and just gave him the indication like, boom. And then him and I can't recall the other guy. There was another guy in the ring with him. He said, come on, drawing a blank on the thing. At least you'll listen to me. But he basically said, I'm not going to coach or teach or be around someone that's a loser, Cody. Oof. But he called him out harsh. It was a vintage Arn Anderson interview or promo. Excuse me, it was a promo. It wasn't an interview. It was a promo. He just took over it. Got a lot of airplay. They played it on air. Got a lot of playback and feedback, I should say. And like I said, the memes have just been more crazy. People saying, saw one where that look, and it had Arn, I guess him and his wife was at a stoplight somewhere. Someone had captured a picture. They memed it up. That awkward moment you pull beside Arn Anderson at a stop sign or something like that. They was putting out the stuff now. Chuck Norris is afraid of Arn Anderson now. Stuff like that.
I saw a bunch of those. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what it was about. But yeah, do yourself a favor, go back and watch it. It's pretty intense, man. As far as what he got away with, I didn't have a problem with it because I understand it, and I think the wrestling fans do, whether you be AEW or WWE or just a casual wrestling fan. I think, probably all right with it, man. Guy's just cutting a promo and being himself. So pretty good stuff. So that's why I said that.
Did you know Arn Anderson never sees eye to eye with anybody because everybody else is afraid to look Arn Anderson in the eyes?
There you go. That's the kind of things. Just change the name from Chuck Norris to Arn Anderson, and those kind of things. That's what it's all about. But anyway, we've got a good episode this week. We're going to be talking about death. Dr. Death, Steve Williams, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
One of the toughest sons of bitches anybody ever laid eyes on.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was one of the greatest athletes that the University of Oklahoma ever produced, man. And I've heard several people say it, former coaches. There were several quotes, and of course, one of the most quoted probably that always put Dr. Death over, excuse me, I have to get a drink of water in just a second here, was, of course, former Sooner himself, Jim Ross, JR, good old JR, always had something, and he was in Doc's corner, man, always in his corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it ended up being detrimental at one point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I wasn't sure if we were going to talk about it or not, but we'll get to it if we do.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was all for that. I didn't like that whole angle, but when it went into it, I was thinking this is. Without knowing what we know now, I was like, man, Steve Williams is just going to maul through all these people, and this is it,
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's, anyway. we can cover that when we get there. But
yeah. I was just saying, that's just, but if it's your friend, like JR, and that's your man, that's who you go put your dime on. That's the man that brought you,
You back him to the fucking end. That's how that works.
That's right, man. That's where it should be. Did you watch The Dark Side of the Ring this week by chance?
Not yet. I'm always about a week behind on those.
Yeah. I usually am.
I did get caught up on Canyon, which was a little harder watch than I was anticipating. I didn't know about how the extent of the bipolar disorder that he had.
Yeah.
That was a little harder to watch. No, this one I'm looking forward to because it's about frontier martial arts.
Yeah.
And Bobby, as much as I hate to admit it, I love me some garbage wrestling.
Oh, well, you'll enjoy this week's. I just took it for what it's worth. I was had Terry Funk on there, of course, and he had befriended Onita way back when Onita was sent here to learn Western style, and also to a lot of times the Japanese, whether it be All Japan or New Japan, they'll send guys to back in the territory days, especially, they send them to a territory in the U.S. or to Mexico or to Calgary. And I know Mexico's a country and Calgary's a city, but that was the territory, it's just known as, just saying. Yep. But Onita went to Amarillo, and Funk helped him get some jobs. Funk helped him get his first car, and so it's pretty cool to see the old Funker on there. Doing his interview. I got to see Ricky Fuji, man. I hadn't seen or heard from him forever. He was one of the guys over there. He worked for several of the companies, and I knew he worked for Frontier Martial Arts. He did kind of a rock and roll gimmick, man, and a hell of a talented guy, and was super over. In fact, one of the weeks when I was over there, he teamed with Ricky Morton. They did like a rock and roll thing for FMW. But another time, we did talent exchanges. I never did go to FMW, but they sent guys to us, and guys like Taka Michinoku and Sean Funaki, some of them younger guys, Terry Boyd, they went to FMW for the day or for the week, what the exchange was. Anyway, Ricky Fuji was on there, and I say this, man, I was having a hard time. It was the last day of the tour. It was over. And Ricky Fuji, he could have went right back to his home, and I don't know if he lived in Tokyo or where he lived at, but we were in Tokyo, and he spent about 7 or 8 hours, pretty much an all day, with me, helping me get cabs, trains out to Narita Airport. Someone had mixed up the travel arrangements, and he took it upon himself. And I don't know if Sasuke, the office, told him, make sure Bobby gets there. But, his tour is over. He could have easily finished up, and he looked after me. From cars, taxis to we ate lunch together. Made sure I got to Narita, but and I appreciated that considering what I did to him. We were in this complete work, just so you know. But no, I do appreciate that. But in the ring, I was with another guy from FMW, young boy named Ishiban Kid, number one kid.
Yeah.
Small young guy breaking in. So it's me and him against the great Sasuke and Ricky Fuji. And man, I'll never forget that building was so fucking hot. It's one of the probably hottest buildings I've ever been in my life anywhere in the world. And what I think I told you, that was one of the days that Sasuke, I don't know if they sent for it or the guy was just out doing his vending, but they had a snow cone truck come, and Sasuke bought everyone. I had like three snow cones. We sit in the building, and the guy would just go out there and they just bring in snow cone one after the other.
That's awesome.
Not fattening and all that, but it's cooling us down. And anyway, but in the match, Ricky Fuji come in. He had this, the nice leather jacket on and cowboy hat type thing. He's all rock and roll. And I looked at him and I said, Elvis is dead, and so is rock and roll. And he started smiling at me as he was taking his hat off. So he understood English very well. So anyway, I was trying to break him up,
Yeah.
Because it was just a hot, miserable fucking day. But one of the spots I did, I shot him in. And I kicked him in the stomach, and he bent over, and I hit the rope right where Sasuke was at in his corner. I hit the rope there, and I just put a big boot right in the side of, and I had my big Cindy Lama cowboy boots on like the Funker wore, and I kicked Ricky Fuji right in the head, man, boom, and I got him good, But the funniest thing was about it that made me laugh. I spun around, and I just got a big laugh. I mean, I smiled, and I just made a big gesture of laughter. As soon as I hit the rope and I kicked him, Sasuke in perfect English, he's standing over us holding a tag rope, right? And I can't do a Japanese voice very good, but this voice, I've never messed it up when I've told this story, and that is this. Sasuke goes, "God damn, Bobby, you stiff." As soon as I kicked him, he said, "God damn, Bobby, you stiff." And Ricky Fuji, of course, sold the fuck out of it. But when he said that, I spun back around instead of pinning Ricky. I turned to Sasuke. I just started laughing like him now. I said, "You want some too? Come on," like that. And he just stood there. And even though he had his mask on, I could see in his eyes that, it was just one of those hot, miserable times, but you're going to fucking make the best of it and have a good match with them. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there on the dark side. I think you'll like it. Yes, Wire and Blood, but I did get to see some people in there. Hayabasha, rather, got to meet him. He was on that tour, and I didn't have a lot of dealing with him. He worked main events and semi-mains. And then, of course, Mike Awesome showed a couple, little clips of him on there. So, it's pretty good. And Mick Foley's on there, and Onita, and I think you'll like this episode. I felt like there's some tragedy. Obviously, what happened to Hayabusa. Becoming paralyzed, another person took their own life or possibly whatever. I mean, it's just, other than that, I mean, it's just, I enjoyed this week's episode just because, knew more than amount of people from Japan on the program, and I liked it. And I wasn't deeply saddened. I mean, it's hard to watch someone obviously be paralyzed or anything that. Sabu was on there, who I know, but to me, it's like I got a little bit enlightened about, some inside dealings that you don't always hear about, when things go on with companies like that. And I know All Japan and New Japan were the two biggest. And I knew when I was there, they were talking about FMW was them or Michinoku at any given time was either third or fourth biggest companies, in country there. There was a lot. I think at one time, hell, there were like 27 offices or something working out of Tokyo. But I think the FMW and Michinoku had risen. They both went up and down, depending on the popularity of the gates they were pulling, whether they was doing a stadium show or whether they was doing a high school, I won't say a high school gym. It was more like those were more like recreational centers in the center of villages or towns that had really nice gyms, So I just wanted to throw it out there and take your time and enjoy that when you get a chance. I'm normally about a week behind as well, but I did catch that one this week just because of my schedule. So anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there and have a good time with it.
Oh, absolutely. So, no, it's one I'm definitely looking forward to.
Yeah. So I figured you would, being a Mike Awesome fan.
Yeah. It's definitely one I'm looking forward to. And, the thing is, like, I do like violent wrestling. Like, I hate seeing anybody really get hurt for the most part. There is kind of a blood thrill when you see somebody really take a nasty shot or fucking staple gun to the head, where you're just like, oh, goddamn. But
jeez,
when you start seeing, like, you know, somebody got paralyzed or had an arm broken or fucking New Jack tried to kill him, you know, shit like that. Yeah. Like, I remember the most garbage match I ever saw was a guy, like, came pushing a shopping cart up to the ring, and in that shopping cart was New Jack pushing another shopping cart full of shit.
Good God. Talk about overkill.
Oh, yeah.
FTC had a student show over the weekend. All the students, man, did really, really good. We had a little different venue. We were at an Elks Lodge. We packed it out, which wasn't a lot, but, you know, 100 and some people there that, you know, wrestling family, basically, you know, family and friends of these young students. Turned out real good, man. I'm going to send a shout out to Brock's Boulder. He is the inaugural Art of Grappling champion. Total surprise to me as well. Everyone had kind of, you know, the way it should be, kept everything hush-hush. They had a new belt for whoever's going to be the champion. And what they did a battle royal. They did it very classy. And the last student standing, you know, become the first Art of Grappling School of champion. Jock Sampson was in it, and he was none too happy as he came out. He beat the piss out of someone earlier in the show, and he was mad that he had to wrestle a student and wasn't get an FTC title shot because the FTC titles kind of, no one has it right now. They're supposed to do an 8-man tournament for it, but Jock come out and grabbed it. He is now a self-proclaimed FTC champion. As you mentioned, or made mention of last week, Jock was going around collecting belts. Well, he said that belt's his again, and we're going to see what's happening because he's going to be on our program in the next week or two and clear some things up between him and Casey King, him and FTC. And I do want to say, Professor, I don't know if he's ever going to clear anything up with you or not because he didn't have too much kind word to say about you last night when I spoke to him. We are on professional terms, and I just told him, I said, you know, you come on a program, you'd say what you'd want and do what you want, man. It's, you know, we're glad to have you on here. But, you know, I know you and Professor got a little thing going on. That's between you all. So just want to give you a heads up on that.
I have a hard time.
Anything you want to say before he comes on the show?
I have a hard time. You remember that thing I said about wrestling in street clothes?
Yeah.
Like anybody who does that should be in prison. Imagine how I feel about guys wrestling in clown shoes. That's all I have to say about that.
He had some good boots on last night. I think he had a camo type hunting attire type singlet on. And had a cowboy hat on, and he's ready to go. He had a good match last night. He put a young boy through his paces, and I call him Braden or Brendan. His name's Caleb Thorne, and he's an up and comer, and I'll put his name out there, but he's always kind of reminded me of Brendan Swab, the way he looks, the UFC fighter and comedian. So when I tell him I call him Brendan, it's because I put him over a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he took it like a man. I'll say this: Jock Sampson beat him, and he took it like a man. But he's just an up and comer, you know. So that's the way it's supposed to be.
Well,
I'm gonna mention one more, man. We had our first graduate. The way this angle ran. Sleazy E, okay? This kid, man, I call him a kid. Jeremy's about 30 years old.
That's a kid.
He's got CP, man, and he's in a wheelchair. And this guy's so inspirational, and he don't call it a wheelchair. He calls it a kill chair, and he does what's called a kill shot, and he'll run over people when he gets the chance. Well, if they're outside the ring, and he's been managing Jason Kincaid. Last night he managed Hunter Hefner. He's managed several people throughout this tri-state area, what state of mind? No, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, and West Virginia. He's been to those 4 states. I think he went to Carolina a few weeks back as well. But this guy, man, I asked permission. I said, Eek, you care if I mention your story on here? Like I said, he's in a wheelchair or a kill chair, and he come out and nailed his promo last night. He had his cap and gown on like a graduate, had a kendo stick, and he hit all his lines and did really good, man. So he goes to the gym, and he'll send me a picture of him working out, and I tell the other students, I said, he's an inspiration. If this guy here, he has to make arrangements, Jeremy, for someone to drive his van to take him to the gym. He travels over an hour just to get to the training 2 days a week, and he doesn't miss unless he's booked somewhere. And he has to make arrangements for someone, to drive him. And I said, look, you people say you want to make it in professional wrestling. This guy doesn't miss, and he has to make arrangements to get here and get home and all that. And he goes to the gym 3 to 4 days a week and does what he can do, what he's physically capable of doing with what he has. I said, by God, if anyone has an excuse to not go to a gym, it's him, but he's there. So don't any of you all, including myself, don't make an excuse to not go to the gym. Use Easy E over there, although last night, like I say, he changed his name to Sleazy E, and he is kind of sleazy. He'll grab your balls. If he gets in the ring, he's got that one good arm. You try to go around him, you got to do what you got to do. I've seen him grab a few nuts, you know what I'm saying? But he does what he has to do. But congratulations to them, and congratulations to, Jillian Hall and Joe Pace, and they put on a really good show. And, yeah, I have something to do it too, but I don't need my pats on the back. I've got my voice right here to let them know how good they done. And also Earl with Time Warp, he was one of the sponsors of the show, and we appreciate that. And anyway, I just want to get all that stuff out of there. I don't know what else to put up, or I just want to make sure that got the students over. That we had a nice little show, and that's ASW. From my understanding, they had a big show in Madison on Friday evening, and they went back to Beckley Saturday evening, but it was just a street fair type thing. I think it was a chili fest, so they took the regular crew. They didn't bring in. I think they brought in. You'll like this. What's her name? Chelsea Green.
Oh, I do like.
She came in, and a couple other people. But on Friday night, dig this. Luke Gallows was there, and my man Casey King hung out with him for a little bit. Him and Anderson, and Casey told me, Luke said to tell me hi, Luke Gallows. And I met him when he was a young boy, 18 years old, getting into the business. And I treated him like a man, and was happy for his success when he made it. And we ran into each other a couple of times since then. And it's always very mutual, very respectful. And Casey made that clear, that, he relayed the message and sent a picture to me. So, yeah, they had 2 big shows up there over the weekend. And there was another show about an hour from here. That'd be west. So their shows going on around here, man, so anyway, just want to get that out there. I know we got a big show to get to, but just throwing that out there.
That's cool. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you are active and going to these things more often. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And that they're able to draw a crowd into something. I mean, cause look, it wasn't that long ago an indie show or a school wouldn't draw more than 100 people. I mean, they'd draw 40, maybe. So that's good.
I went out afterwards for about an hour with a mutual friend. He works for ECC. It's a local wrestling company that runs here in Ashland, and he's worked for FTC. He works for Ohio Valley on a regular basis, Ohio Valley. Hey, Cow Dog, chill the fuck out down there. Welcome aboard, Cow Dog. Anyway, this guy, he works for OVW some, in with Al, and that group does some refereeing. But him and I were speaking very briefly last night several times, as you do throughout the evening because you're busy. But, man, we was talking just in the last couple of years, some of the stuff that we've been witnessing in our tri-state area in Ashland and Huntington and Ironton, how we have been kind of a part of this. Ignite a COVID deal, just saying we had put some things in motion a couple of years ago. Some of these, people that, you help along the way, and the FTC has grown. A couple of their students had went out and started their own, ECC, it's East Coast Championship, I think. Again, it's just one of those things that and they're working with ASW, like I said, we're just seeing it. And I said, I said, myself and Jeremy on a podcast, I said, we talked when we first started, we had WWE and that was it. And we started talking about AEW a little bit. That was just going to be a t-shirt company apparently. And now there's like everyone's working, I mean, and him and I was talking about how he was trying, I won't say he was taking credit for it, nor was I. He was just saying we are a part of that. We've gotten some of these guys together because of Joe and Earl, putting together events in this area. Gary up in West Virginia, I think it's really good for the wrestling community, man. Again, this is just in a couple mile, 200-mile radius or so, So I'm hoping that's going on all around the country. And from what I see on Twitter, it does. I see a lot of, other indie shows out there. So I support indie wrestling because, not everyone, but there's a vast majority of those people, when they get the opportunity, and when opportunity knocks and talent opens the door, there you go. That's all you need. It's just that opportunity. If you got the talent, you can get in there and make some money, get known, and doing something you love doing, and that's pro wrestling.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, because like back in the day, you'd have to find like a local independent TV station to get your promotion any traction. And local independent TV stations don't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
But now you got Twitch and YouTube and Vimeo and all these other options, and you can sell video on demand, or I don't know how hard it is, but you could probably put together a deal with Fight and, do like monthly pay-per-views or something like that. It's an exciting time, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, I think so, man.
A lot of pioneering is needed, is what's going on, but it's cool.
Yeah.
And, it's like when we started, like you're saying, there was the WWE. I joked about being a 3-time NWA champion, because who the fuck out there could even have told you who the NWA champion was then?
Yeah. But you got that one title, right? The American American title?
The American title from AWA. I'm still champion. Okay. I defended it in a match in Nova Scotia recently.
Okay.
A totally real match, not something that was made up. And I'm good for another 60 days.
There you go, man. I love it, man. Well, let's do this real quick if you don't care. I've mentioned a couple times. Let's drop our time warp spot in if you don't care, because Earl, just want to give you a shout out, tell you you're doing good things, and we appreciate you being this month's sponsor. If you'd like to sponsor our show, please get a hold of Professor at the Geekish Cast, or get a hold of myself at Bobby Blaze 744, or hit up the joint account, and you can get that on Twitter or Facebook at Bell to Bell Blaze. Let us know if your business would like to be a sponsor of our fine program, and we'll cut you a promo, man, just like I'm about ready to do right now, Professor. Hey, video gamers, sports fans, and nostalgia enthusiasts. This is Bobby Blaze. Are you ready for a time warp? Time Warp is a brick-and-mortar hobby shop with a high selection of everything sports, gaming, and collectibles right in downtown Ashland, in 2 locations at the Ashland Town Center. They've got vintage toys, sport cards, and collectibles. Tons of wrestling merch. It's the largest selection of memorabilia in the tri-state. Time Warp also has an extensive inventory of vintage and current video games and consoles. It's a 100% must-visit for retro gamers. Time Warp buys your collectibles daily and are open 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They're only closed on Christmas and Thanksgiving. Check out their Facebook page at Time Warp Ashland.
Do the Time Warp again. And get on out there too. Is it Lower Ashland or just regular Ashland, Bobby?
You know what? The Time Warp is, he's got one location in L.A., Lower Ashland, and he's got another one that's a brick and mortar, and that's the original one. But he's got 2 locations in the Ashland Town Center. One's a kiosk, and one's just a storefront. And man, he's got everything in there. When you come to Ashland, you're gonna have to go down there, and you'll spend half a day down there, I guarantee it. And bring your paycheck, because he's got a lot of stuff you'll probably want, knowing that you're a collectible of things, Yeah, good stuff, man. Anyway, the Time Warp. You said let's do the Time Warp again. Sometime later this month, I'm going to watch it. I'll have to watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show, man. I do. That's one of these October things for me.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
See, I'm waiting for the new Halloween movie to come out on the 15th.
Okay.
And, Halloween, for the original, for one of those movies that didn't have much bloodshed, scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And I would watch Friday the 13th and not flinch. And then Halloween, I'd be afraid to look at the TV sometimes, you know?
Yeah. It's just that suspense, man. Sometimes, because it's that difference of that slasher and gore versus the intensity and the psychology behind it. No, here he is, or, oh, is he really there? Oh, that stream, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Well, you know what? Hey, Bobby, so we're talking about Dr. Death this week. But because it's October, let's do this real quick.
Okay.
You're a screenwriter. You have to come up with a new horror villain, and all you have to work with is he's named Dr. Death. What do you do?
Okay. I come up with Dr. Frank Booth Kevorkian. Dying is not a crime. And so I think if you've ever seen Blue Velvet, there's Frank Booth, played by Dennis Hopper, who walks around sucking on that oxygen that's connected to nothing. He's got the oxygen mask.
Yeah.
And he sucks on that blue velvet, you know. So he is the well-dressed man. If you haven't seen the movie, I just gave it away. But if you haven't seen it, it's only because it come out like 1986, you bastards. You should have seen it by now. So I'm looking at Frank Booth. Then I'm putting Kevorkian in there, okay? I'm putting Jack Kevorkian as the last name. And I'm going to have him going around as big as, scary as Dr. Death Steve Williams, okay?
Okay.
But he attacks you with that Oklahoma stampede. He just hits you. You know, you see these kids with a gun or a knife or a stick. Man, he just sticks you with his full body like a football tackle, like you do at 3-point stance. Mm-hmm. He's just a big, strong, you know, cock strong like he was. Boom, he hits you with that. Okay. Then he'd pull out the gimmick, the oxygen mask. But of course, instead of the oxygen mask, he's got like a towel with ether in it, you know, boom. Okay. So we're tying in the wrestling part. Boom. So he's a heel and he knocks you out. And the Kevorkian part is when you got you on that death machine. And he's, you know, when he's, depending on when the climax of the, you know, when he's killing these people and he has this little whisper in their ear and you're like, what'd he say? What'd he say? And you don't really understand what he said. And then either when he's talking to a detective or whenever he's on trial or in the mental institute and he's talking and his word is, dying is not a crime.
Okay.
That's mine.
There you go. Okay, so mine is Dr. Death Steve Williams, former college football player, blew his knee out, so he becomes a surgeon instead.
Okay.
But he's so angry over having his knee damaged that as he's going through his surgery and, you know, doing things, if he finds out one of his patients doesn't have a lot of family or anybody who misses him, he kidnaps him and then performs horrifying, experimental surgeries on him. And then, you know, then he kidnaps a girl who's like the final girl, and then she has to figure out a way to get out of there before he amputates all her limbs.
Yeah. Man. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've seen a horror movie or two in my time.
Yeah.
So that would be my Jeremy Vilmur's Dr. Death. See?
There you go.
Yeah.
Start on a screenplay, man.
Yep.
I think they go for a minimum like $75,000 in Hollywood. So you just sell the first draft and get the $75,000 and say, okay, do what you want with it.
Yep. I really don't care. I open my hand, a check falls in. That's the end of my participation.
There you go, man.
Bobby. Right. So we are talking about Dr. Death Steve Williams this week.
Let's get on with it, man.
Yeah. He, pro wrestler, collegiate football player, amateur wrestler at the University of Oklahoma. He was known as Dr. Death. It was a name he acquired in junior high school, which leads us to our number 10 on our top 10 Dr. Death things.
Okay.
Now, do you know why they called him Dr. Death?
I did not until you smartened me up. You want to smarten everyone else about it?
So he got this nickname because in junior high, he had to wrestle wearing a goalie's mask due to shattering his nose, and his coaches and friends and sister began calling him Dr. Death.
Man. All right. So he got it well before becoming a pro wrestler. He was already named that in junior high. Dr. Death.
Can you imagine being that much of a badass? You're called Dr. Death when you're a pimply faced 12-year-old.
Yeah, I went to junior high, some badass cats, man. I ain't gonna lie. And we had some tough guys. They usually went from there to either honestly, reform school, and about 50%, the other 50% made it to the high school. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it was back then. But I don't think we had a Dr. Death. You know what I'm saying? We had some tough MOFs out there, man, but we didn't have a Dr. Death, by God.
Yeah, well, boarding schools are full of tough guys.
Yeah. So are jails and prisons and graveyards.
That's right. Now, I'm going to have you talk to us a little bit about number 9 here, his college and pro ball career.
Yeah. So in college, on football, he was a big 8 offensive guard in 1982. And the other thing I was going to tell you, I don't know if you know this, Jeremy, but one thing that I think Donald Trump ever got right, okay, don't leave us, audience. He drafted Herschel Walker as the number 1 overall pick when he started with the startup of the USFL way back in the day. And Herschel Walker is one of my favorite all-time athletes, him and Bo Jackson. But also that got on that team. So I'll give Trump that much. The whole league stuck around for about a cup of coffee, as everyone knows. So there you can see where I'm nosediving it right there. Well, boom. Yeah, but I brought it up.
Yeah, it didn't just like fade out though. Remember, it died because of him putting it in direct competition with the NFL.
Yes.
Because they wouldn't let him buy a franchise when he wanted to. Not that he could afford one. Also, you know what? A broken clock is right twice a day, and even a blind.
That's right.
Even a blind pig finds a truffle every now and again.
That's right. Yeah. So I brought that up because because Dr. Death also was on that team. He got drafted for the Generals out of the University of Oklahoma. He got hurt in the first, I won't say it's the first, but early in a practice game. So he didn't actually get to debut his pro career until about 6 games in. And I think he ended up playing a total of maybe about 10 games, something like that. And then, different people went to different teams. And like you said, it kind of faded out a little bit and eventually closed or whatever. But he did play pro ball. And we've mentioned a lot of guys. A lot of people don't know that we've mentioned several people. We actually started, 2 years ago this month. As a matter of fact, we did a top 10 pro wrestlers that had been pro football players. And a lot of people don't realize, there were several pro football players they played in that USFL. If they had been cut from an NFL team. So, we've got that list out there on YouTube floating around. There's only like 3 videos of it, but the podcast is still out there. But yeah, Dr. Death did play some pro ball. So that would be our number 9. But now going into number 8, and you talk about his early wrestling.
Yes,
that's where he really excelled. Now he was tough in football at the University of Oklahoma. I mean, you just don't put it this way. You just don't go out there and they don't just let any athlete or Joe Schmo rather go out there and play for the University of Oklahoma. The Oklahoma Sooners had one of and has been for years one of the greatest college football teams out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So he's playing for a major university. And, done quite well. In addition to being on a football team, he was a wrestler, and that's going to take us to number 8. You want to lead us into some of the stuff he did?
Let me hit it from the top here. First off, I don't know if you've ever been to Oklahoma City or Norman, Oklahoma. My grandmother's from Norman. I've been in that area, and it's kind of wild because you have 2 college towns that are about 30 miles away from each other. So between, Oklahoma City and Norman. So it's just kind of wild just seeing that there's that, and because of that stretch of highway between Norman and, Oklahoma City, some of the most beautiful girls you've ever seen working at a restaurant consistently door to door through there. Yeah. Get over here, dummy. Sorry, Bobby. I got a yellow cow dog over here.
That's okay.
As she is.
Well, that sounds good though. I can imagine you got a lot of college girls, young co-eds. What do you say? Got the half an hour, 45-minute stretch there.
Yep.
2 different competing universities. I can imagine you got some beautiful waitresses.
Oh, absolutely.
That sounds.
It was pretty stunning. But Dr. Death, his early wrestling career, which is going to be our number 8, he's a four-time. Okay, goddamn it, knock that off.
4-time All-American from 1979 to 1982. I'll let you pacify Cowdog there.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. Yeah.
Yeah. He was secondly nationally ranked second his senior year, only losing to 2-time Olympian Bruce Baumgartner. Okay. And so that's quite a bit, man. To be not just once, not twice, but a 4-time, that's coming in as a freshman, a true freshman, and getting All-American honors. You have to be just an elite athlete, and he's a 2-time. Now, earlier in his career too, he ran track and field earlier too. So he probably a 3-time, 4-time letterman throughout high school. But in Oklahoma, being a varsity football player, and then the acceleration though in your career is on the mat, and becoming 4 times All-American. He kept moving up too, like from his sophomore year to his junior year, to finally reaching number 2 status, only to beat by no shame in losing to a gentleman that went on to become a 2-time Olympian.
No, not at all.
That says a lot. Doc opted obviously not to pursue an amateur career in wrestling beyond the University of Oklahoma, because he started pursuing professional wrestling. Go ahead, and I'll let you go ahead since Cowdog is chilled out.
Yeah, well, she seems to be now. So he was trained to go pro style by Bill Watts and Buddy Landell. Hey, you know Buddy Landell.
Mm-hmm. And I can see Buddy being a big asset in that role. I really can. Of course, Bill Watts, because of the size and also being an Oklahoma guy and this and that, but Buddy as a worker. I can see Buddy polishing up his moves and helping him transition from, hey, brother, we ain't got any heat. You ain't got it. You just touch me, I'm going to go down. You're an All-American, And Bud Rose saying, now look here, I'm going to put a headlock on you. Don't belly to back me. Let me grab the hold on you first and just show you, So I can see Bud, and I mean that most respectfully of Bud Rowe, because he's professionally trained,
Yeah.
So I think obviously what we're dealing with here, you got 2 great trainers, but I can see Buddy really helping him polish up for the pro style. So anyway, yes, absolutely. I do know Buddy.
Well, and Cowboy Bill Watts must have just shit his pants when he saw Steve Williams, because you want to talk about a guy that was right up his like, hey, Cowboy Bill Watts, what does a pro wrestler look like to you? And he'd be like, that fucking guy right there.
Yeah, that guy that came off the gridiron and off the mat.
Yeah.
Built like that, has an attitude like that, has a nickname like that.
Had a full beard at 12 years old.
Yeah. Is this, this is what it looks like. This is your Rocky Horror, man. This is Rocky right here.
Yep.
Yeah. So they broke the mold.
Yeah. So, no shit. So Dr. Death started wrestling pro in 1982 in Mid-South. 1985, he formed a tag team with Ted DiBiase and feuded with Eddie Gilbert in the Nightmare. And, I love Eddie Gilbert. I think he was a great heel. Booker, sometime, whatever. 86, the UWF is renamed to Mid-South is renamed to the UWF, and we're going to get into that a little bit more. But when Jim Crockett took over the UWF, Doc was one of the few guys to be kept on and then given a push in the NWA.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, his career would go on to cover the Mid-Atlantic, World Class, and New Japan, and All Japan as well.
Yeah. He got over huge in Japan. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. I'm going to throw a quick story in here. I'm not going to get the exact year. Just something that I recall reading. I'm going to say I read this in 89. So I know I read it in the dirt sheet, the Observer, that Rick Robert Rick Steiner, which is Rick Steiner, and Doc, they come upon an accident. And I'm thinking this, I don't know if this was a reprint from one of those years like 87 or 88, if they were working for Watts or if they were working in WCW time. But nonetheless, there was a car wreck, and the people were trapped in the car. JR puts this over. It's been put over several times. Alan, Cheap Shots Alan on Twitter, he's got an old tweet about it. But basically, the car was on fire, and there was a crowd of people around it, and they couldn't help the people on the inside. I don't know if they was too scared. They couldn't get close enough. But people were inside this car, and they was afraid it was going to explode. Well, who would expect two world-class athletes to pull down a highway and see what's going on? Not only that, like superheroes, they jumped out of the damn car and they ripped the car door off.
Yeah.
And helped the people. They rescued the people. So Doc and Rick ripped the car door off, dragged the victims to away from the car far enough because it did explode, but there were no injuries. So that happened sometime during that time we're talking. Again, I don't know if it happened when they was working for Mid-South. I think it did, but they could have already been in WCW. I'm just going off memory on that. But yeah, that's I think they reacted the way most people, especially two guys like that with the attitude that they had about living and life and just being, like he said, world-class athletes. They saw danger, and instead of running away from it, they ran to it and saved people's lives.
Yeah.
And it's still talked about today. So I just want to kind of throw that in that little early wrestling there. So
no, that's
just a little story. Y'all can research that too. It's all over the internet. I just paraphrased a little bit there, Professor.
Well, and the thing is, like, you see a car on fire, it's kind of a dicey proposition. But guys like Dr. Death and Rick Steiner, the dog-faced gremlin there, yeah. literally two dudes strong enough to tear a car apart and get people out. It might be the only really safe way to do it. You got the human jaws of life over here.
That's well put. Human jaws of life. There you go, man. Well said. Yeah. Damn, ripping that car door off and getting people out. Hell yeah. That's wild. That's wild, man. Anyway,
I'm going to go on to number 7 here. And
yes,
this one I probably could have put higher, but I was just trying to make sure I hit all the points I wanted to hit in Doc's career.
By the way, this week's notes, Professor really cleaned them up really good, has some good notes. And I appreciate you putting them out there. I know you love this. I'm surprised you didn't put a little bit higher, but it's our list. It's your list. It's ours combined. I just love you. I love that you put this in here because people tend to forget this. Well, and you've brought it up before, so
and I have to point out, I love the way Japanese naming conventions go in pro wrestling.
Yes,
like you're talking the Ichiban Kid, which is like the greatest or the number one kid, or I love that. But my favorite one of all time is the Miracle Violence Connection.
Yes, man.
3 words that sound like nonsense together, but then you realize it's a tag team made up of Steve Williams and Terry Gordy, and you go, oh, that is miraculously violent, isn't it?
Man, I remember watching some of those earlier tapes in 90, 91 maybe, when I was at Malenko's there. In between, I went down there and took some time off, went back down there again, but they was always trading the tapes and Japanese boys coming over, and of course the magazines and stuff too. But man, you just see these two guys, and now you can watch it all on YouTube, but them two guys, they were just, that's a connection and violence. They was taking people's fucking heads off, suplexing them, power bombing them, tackling them. Some of those clotheslines, you can go and watch, Stan Hansen clothesline, Stan the Lariat Hansen, who's going to be in town next month. We'll talk about that later. Mm-hmm. But Doc just taking people's heads off too, man, with that tackle and that clothesline and the belly to back suplexes. If he got behind you, it's over. He's going to pop you all over that ring, man. And among other things, I'm going to let you, talk about that later on. Some of the other stuff, feats of strength he done in the ring. So
I watched
Japan.
I watched a couple belly to back, suplexes the other day that he did. And I don't want to say that he was careless, because typically he was strong enough just to do whatever the fuck he wanted to and pull it off safely. But I saw a couple of those suplexes where I'm like, that guy's lucky to be walking after that. Holy shit.
Well, during that time period, that's the thing. I was watching Gordy a lot then, and same thing. It looked like some of these guys shouldn't be able to walk afterwards. Yeah. The way he would powerbomb, he would flatten them out in the mat. And, like I said, Doc, the same thing, tackling to the clothesline, to the bellies, and those type things. And speaking of which, I haven't seen it for a while, but it's out there. And I think we spoke about it on this show before. But it's been a while bringing it up again. There's a good match. We mentioned Rick Steiner earlier. There's a good match in WCW between Williams and Gordy versus the Steiner brothers, and it's a fucking study of Suplex City, bitches. I'm telling you. It should still be on YouTube. They just go in there and get at it, man. Those four guys, and that's four, just four athletes, four wrestlers, four tough guys, and Gordy, without the amateur credentials they have, he made up for in the pro experiences in being tough for those 3-4 years. Those guys are off at college. He was out busting heads then, So he didn't miss anything, not getting down on the collegiate mat, if you know what I'm saying. Well, he hangs right with them.
Yeah, by the time they got out of, graduated from college and had their wrestling background behind him, Terry Gordy had already been wrestling for 9 years, pro.
Yeah.
I mean, just 8. I'm not talking about at that time. I just mean by the age of 22.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's it. So, but with the Miracle Violence connection.
Yeah, go over some tag teams and stuff that they won, some titles and stuff.
Yeah, please. I wanted to cover that. All Japan Pro World Tag Team Championship 5 times. World's Strongest Tag Determination League. Bobby, we got to dig into that sometime.
We do. You mentioned that a lot on here. We need to check that out, man.
Yeah, we got to look at what exactly. I assume it's a tournament, but we need to figure out what exactly. PWI Tag Team of the Year 1982, named them the number 16 of 100 best tag teams during the PWI years. World Championship Wrestling, NWA World Tag Team Championship 1 time, WCW World Tag Team Championship 1 time, NWA World Tag Team Championship Tournament 1982. And then the Wrestling Observer named them Tag Team of the Year 1992.
Nice.
So those first couple of years in the 90s, these guys were just stomping mud holes in everybody's ass.
Miracle Violent Connection. I like that. I like that a lot. Like you said, the way the Japanese just put something on there,
Oh yeah, like it almost comes off like nonsense, and then you look at it for a second, and you're like, yeah, that is pretty miraculous violence.
Right, number 7. You want to go to that?
Ridiculous strength. So Doc was stupidly strong, like.
Yes.
Like superhero levels of strong. And here's the problem. I used to know who received this move, and I can't remember it now, but the Midnight Express, Stan and Bobby flapjack a guy into the air, and then Doc just snatches him and has him pressed over his head.
Yeah. Corny talks about on his podcast. If I'm not mistaken, man, it's just the way they were in a locker room and on their way to the ring, and it was like, you think you can catch him, and Doc was like, yeah. And then he got out there, and it's just like, I think he pressed him a couple of times, like caught him and just pressed him. I don't know if it's Bobby or Stan, but either way, man, it was just very impressive, I guess, the way it went down.
Oh, yeah. You can find gifs of it. The problem was I just couldn't remember who it was who received it, but yeah.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm thinking it's Bobby because he'd go up,
Bobby and Stan flapjacked this guy, and Doc grabbed him. So
okay, who was it then?
That's what I can't remember. That's the problem.
Yeah, who was it? They shit. I'm drawing a blank too.
And the gifts I found, I was looking at on my phone, and they were like as messy as a thumbprint, so I couldn't see his face.
Oh, who was it? Because Corny tells it on the story, and my bad. I wasn't sure who took the bump on that when I said Bobby or Stan. I could see him getting either one of them up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just wondering. Who was that? Damn it. What are you going to search for? Flapjack into press or what? I don't know.
The only way I could find it reliably was flapjack press and GIF. Cause, but I couldn't get anybody. I couldn't find anything that actually said, oh yeah, here he is grabbing so-and-so midair, you know. But, look, here's the thing, Bobby, here's the thing. One of our fans will know, and they can let us know who it was, and we will say next week who it was. That's just my lack of foresight and being in a hurry this week to get the notes put together that I didn't take the time to look into it for.
Well, you did an excellent job of getting the notes together. At that, we both had busy weeks that we talked about, you know. So, I swear, I've seen it. I heard Corny talk about it, and I just can't remember who it was. So, anyway, fans, hit us up on Twitter. Hit me up at Bobby Blaze 744. Hit the professor up at the Geekish Cast. Hit our joint account up either on Twitter or Facebook under Bell to Bell Blaze, and let us know who that is, or send it to us even better. I want to see it again because I've seen it. Or if you have the clip of Cornette talking about it, send that as well. That'd be grateful, or I'd be grateful for it. I'm sure the professor would be. And while we're talking about that, let me just mention this: our website, Professor, belltobellblaze.com. We have that too.
Yes, we do. That one you can find out there. You can find all of our YouTube videos and episodes and everything and social media accounts and everything from there. So go check us out on there. And and you can find links to every episode on any format pretty much as well. And Bobby, I'm going to go ahead and do number 5 as well because it's just kind of a subset. But
but I've got a little story to add on to this one here once you do it.
Yeah, so I put Ridiculously Strong Part 2, The Perfect Power Slam. This guy, he had control over that power slam just due to his strength, that he could pick a guy up, put him anywhere he needed to be. And even though I've seen a lot of great power slams, I don't know that I've seen one better than his.
Yeah. As control-wise, he just had so much control. Yes. Like I was mentioning that, the Stampede, he had that control when he picked you up and put you across his chest and ran into a turnbuckle. You know, you're talking about a grown-ass man on your body, taken from mid-ring at least, if not 3/4, boom, slamming him into a turnbuckle, then turning that into a drop slam, basically. He didn't always power slam him out of that, but he would do a drop slam, but he had complete control the whole time. And then with his power slam, he just snatched a person up and boom, put that, like you said, that power slam was just in control. I've seen people do it, and sometimes that looks a little lackluster, or did they let him go too soon, or what have you. He held on to him and took him down and drove him not into the mat, but to the ring floor, the floor below the ring, you know. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
We'll talk about different people and ridiculous strength, power slams, and controlling people. How would you feel about if you were standing about 15 or 20 feet back and two people were peeking through the curtains, and those two, they're just trying to watch the matches. Okay, now I witnessed this and kind of prepped you for it. Just how would you feel about this? This was right when I was either training or getting into business. The two faces peeking through the curtain to watch the matches were not only Dr. Death Steve Williams, but the other one was the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez. Do you think you'd want to say anything to those two guys?
Nothing but, sir, can I get you a beer?
Exactly. Yeah. But I was at the Huntington Civic Center many years ago, and the way they had their ring set up at the time, the NWA show, you picture yourself from the ring. They had the railing down the sides, of course, around the ring, and then railing for a walkway. But then at the end, it bead back out to about, the middle of the curtains, but the way the curtains were set, the way it was set up, once you got past the barricade, there was about 20 foot on each side of the curtains. There was no barricade. Of course, no one went back or anything, but you'd see a couple of the boys. That's how I used to talk to Bobby Eaton all the time, for even in business. He'd come out and talk to me. And if you're cool with them, the no big deal. And of course, Bobby's, one of the nicer guys, and I wasn't going to fuck with them anyway.
Yeah.
I was just appreciative they took time to speak with me, as I've made mention of before. Anyway, Dr. Death Steve Williams and Raging Bull Man Fernando just kind of watched the match. I'm not sure if they had a run in or if they was just watching, maybe the Road Warriors or whoever in their tag match, just checking out. Maybe it's a couple of their heel buddies or whatever. But anyway, this group of people, about 20, 25 people, was just down there yelling at them. Now, where I was seated at, I was like the first section, not on the floor, but the first section of the bleachers that you can see. You're straight even with the ring pretty much. It's one of the better seats, I always think, if you don't get ringside, because it's above the ring, but you're still in that front row. And I was at the entrance part where I could still see the entrance really, really good. And these people were down on the floor, and I guess they're just fucking with Doc and Manny.
That's
and I don't know what they're yelling. They're just being assholes, and it's about, again, there's no one tough guys down there. I'm not saying that, because it was a group of people from, 12 and 15-year-old kids to, some adult guys that probably thought they were tough, had that one too many beer, Mm-hmm. And, man, I'm going to tell you what, they sit there and was probably just trying to honestly watch the match, or they may have had a run in during that match. I don't know. To where they were standing at, I doubt they had to run in, because I don't recall that, because they had probably come in through where the rails were at, But anyway, these people, finally, man, they both jerked back the curtain at the same time. Now, this is not a well-lit area other than the light, because the match is going on, but a light from the side hallway is coming into that little bit of a section, because the overhead lights are not on in the arena. And, man, I'm going to tell you what, when Manny Fernandez and Dr. Death stepped beyond that curtain and took about 3 steps, those 20, 25 people, they were like cockroaches when a light comes on. They fucking scattered. And I cracked up. I mean, it was one of the funniest damn things you could see, because not a damn one of them was going to stay there and take that ass whooping. And I don't blame them.
No.
Hell, I was in the bleachers not harassing them. I got nervous,
Yeah.
But if they had, and I don't think they went for anyone. I think they took a couple of steps, and that's all it really took. But had any of those people stayed around, let's just say 12 or 15 of them said, well, hey, I've had that one extra beer at Liquid Courage. I'm tough. I'm telling you, them two, I think they would have went through those people like a buzzsaw, man. They'd have went through like butter, a hot knife through hot butter. I mean, they'd have chilled it, they'd have melted them. I was going to say chilled them. They'd have chilled them too.
Yeah, it would have been.
It would have been funny. It would not have been funny. It would have been some ass whooping. And I doubt anyone would have touched those two had they come through there, because I think it'd been just, screwed, blued, and tattooed, and people lying there on a concrete floor going, what the fuck just hit me? Did they send a bulldozer out from the back or what?
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, just kind of touching on that.
Just imagine a real punch from either one of those guys.
Yeah. And you was talking off the air, the first 4 or 5, 6 people coming through there, they're getting a full blast.
Yeah.
They're getting a full blast. And how strong Doc was, I can't imagine him hitting you with a full-on punch or forearm or a kick, And then Manny's just fucking crazy fighting. He's gouging eyes. He's pulling hair. He's pulling ears off. He's doing anything he can do.
Oh, yeah.
And,
yeah.
Because that's just the way he was, a street fighting, tough son of a gun,
Well, you start throwing bombs from a guy like that or a guy like Manny Fernandez, put your fucking hands up. You're not wearing gloves. that punch is getting through your guard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You ain't blocking shit.
Yeah.
But you just talk about their strength, and of course, like I said, this comes up under perfect power slam. Not the Doc need to run out there and power slam anyone. Hell, he could just run out through there like a football tackle and probably take them down like bowling pins or something had he wanted to.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think honestly, they were both professional enough that and they didn't, they knew they could kick their asses. They didn't feel threatened at any time. The people doing it, once they stepped out there and took those 2 or 3 steps through the curtain, they knew like, oh, fuck, let's smarten up. Let's go back to our seats,
Yeah.
And they did. So just wanted to tell you that story, because that's just, it was funny to watch. And I couldn't tell you who was in the ring. Like I said, it may have been another tag team. They was just watching them, It could have been Dusty and Wyndham against the Road Warrior or something, or whoever it was. I'm just saying they was, where I was at, I kept looking to my right, seeing what the fuck them two was going to do, if they'd come out to whipping people's ass or not. Yeah. But thankfully they didn't have to.
No, that's probably good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what gets into people sometimes. I get you want to shit talk the heel, but something tells me when you're in a crowd of 20 people doing it, you're going to start doing some shit you would normally do.
Yeah, that herd mentality, that, let's get on a stupidity train over here. My buddy's down there yelling at them. They ain't doing anything. They must not be that tough. Well, come on. Then you got 3 or 4 more guys coming down there like, that's not the right two, And honestly, either one of them could have probably looked the other one. I could see Manny going, you want this? You want me to take it? And one of them just stepping through and knocking about 3 motherfuckers out and the rest of them scooting. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, easily.
But knowing Manny, he'd want to fight them all anyway. He'd probably be saying, hold on, Doc, I got this.
Chasing
hold my beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on past that.
Yep.
We're into Big in Japan. Take it over.
Big in Japan. So before New Japan, Doc worked for Baba over at All Japan, and I started with the tag team with Terry, and then kind of graduated on to other tag teams and some singles competition. He became the AJPW Triple Crown champion, which is one of my favorite belts. That's another thing the Japanese do, is they decide, hey, we need a more prestigious title. Go grab 4 or 5 other belts. Let's put them all together in one package championship. And there you go. And, that's always kind of a cool thing I like. He became a mainstay in Gaijin on AJPW TV with Stan Hansen, Terry Gordy, Johnny Ace. I don't know Gary Albright. I don't know if I'm just missing something there, but I don't know.
He was he was an all-American collegiate wrestler.
Okay.
I knew very little about him. I'm trying to think I can't remember who he wrestled for all of a sudden. And if I had seen that note ahead of time, I could have gave you a little bit more better research on that. But, he had a legitimate background, big, strong guy too, heavier set type guy. I wish I could tell you more, but I do know that much. That's it. But yeah, I'll tell you this. When I was mentioning seeing people getting their heads knocked off and stuff, if you get a chance, go watch Mishiwa. If you watch, during this time period, you got 94 down here. If you watch, anyone really, either Gordy or Williams working with Mishiwa on here, it's well worth it, man. That guy there's some incredible matches that are very, very physical.
Yeah.
During that time, and Williams has a couple of them on there. They're on YouTube, but yeah, go watch the Mishiwas. Kawada, I'm sure is on there too, but I'm just telling you right now, the Mishiwa fights are on there, and they're awfully damn good, man. Yeah, those are the ones. Albright was there with them, but again, and Johnny Ace for a hot minute, but again, you got to go with Stan Hansen, Terry Gordy, and Steve Williams were the main 3 guys during that time. As you're going through that list.
And they got a note here that Japanese wrestling was as hot in this period of time as the Attitude Era was in American wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can believe that.
Yeah. Well, hey, Bobby,
they love the wrestling in Japan.
Why don't you sell a couple books?
I think I will, man. I do talk about Japan in both my books. The first book is called Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boostful Travel. And I talk about, a lot of people just think I went once. I went 5 tours to Japan, man. I got to travel extensively throughout the entire country. I did tours up south, up north and down south, around Tokyo, etc. But anyway, on the books, yes. If you go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1, that'll take you right to the Amazon link, and that's where you can get Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boostful Travel. I actually spoke to a gentleman last night that was a referee, and I don't know what his age was, but he told me, he bought my book, and he told me he grew up and was living that while I was, in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And I said, well, he'd already paid me for the book because he wanted a book. But I said, I think you'll really enjoy the section where I talk about my whole Smoky Mountain run. He said, man, I followed you from the time you got in there and they put the junior heavyweight title on you to where the TV title. He said, man, and he said to me, I don't know if this means I'm really old or not. I'm just saying, he said to me, man, it's like I was watching a real life Rocky Balboa come up through the ranks at Smoky Mountain Wrestling. He said, I wasn't a WWF fan, the way he worded it. And he said, at WCW, they were on, and I had watched them a lot. He said, but Smoky Mountain came regularly to Knoxville, and your story, and he was very compelling telling me my own story back to me. You know what I'm saying? So I was very, it was flattering and a little bit embarrassing, but flattering, and I appreciate it. So yeah, tinyurl.com/blazebook1. Talk about Japan, talk about Smoky Mountain. I was just telling some students the other day about being in South Africa, man, and Nelson Mandela walking right beside me in the airport in Johannesburg. So I share a whole bunch of stories just about being on the road in there, man. And that's my first book. So that's kind of my baby, you know. But if you haven't gotten one, order yourself a copy. Order one for the wrestling friend or the wrestling fan in your family. They are adult. You know, if you're 18 or older, that's great. If you're 14, 15, I don't know if it's for them. But if you're 18 years or older, get it for them. And if you're an older wrestling fan, especially a pro wrestling fan, not any sports stuff, I think you'll really appreciate that book. My second book, I kicked that on too, The Educational Wrestler. Man, it's just a little bit about life outside of wrestling. I do recall a bunch of wrestling road stories and songs, and we got a top 10, not outlawed, but wrestling moves that are the most dangerous, type thing. That's the one that has a stripper story in it. There's a couple of them in there. Starts off with a stripper story about, down and out strippers in West Virginia or somewhere. Could have been any town, just saying. So one night I was in a hotel room, and this one chick, man, just jumps up on a bed, starts fucking belting a song out, and like, holy shit, she don't need to be in a hotel room with me. She needs to be on a fucking American Idol or performing somewhere, other than here. But some funny stories there, but it's called, I kicked that on too, The Educational Wrestler, and you can get that at tinyurl.com/blazebook1. Now, if you use the tinyurls, we appreciate it very much. Jeremy gets the whole 12 cents or 20, depending on whose story you believe. So somewhere in between there, it's not very much. But see, the joy is this. I sell a book, I'm happy. Jeremy's happy for me that I sold a book. Mm-hmm. The podcast gets a little bit of money in the affiliate count. But it's just a way to help us out, and a way also to get my books out there through our word on this podcast. And if you bought one, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you'd be so kind, go on Amazon and leave me a review. I'd appreciate that as well. Just like the professor myself, whether you go to Apple Tunes or Apple Podcast now, I guess I was going to say iTunes, combined them, Google Play or Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever, but preferably Apple Podcast. Leave us a fair and honest review, because we'd appreciate that too. And that's my book spew right there, Jeremy.
All right. So everybody, if you haven't done so, get out there and buy a book. If you have bought a book, buy a friend a book. If you bought a friend a book, go make a new friend and buy them a book. What I'm trying to say here is buy a book.
There you go.
That all being said. Hey, Bobby.
Yes.
What else can we say about Dr. Death?
I think he's one of the most legit tough guys ever to walk the face of the earth. I don't know. Let's just make a brawl for all, because we know Dr. Death Steve Williams is going to come here and whip everyone's ass, and he's going to win the thing.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Shit never goes not according to plan, ever.
Yeah.
Lucky shots.
I like the idea of this originally. honest to goodness, I recall this. I was in another home at the time, and I was with WCW at the time, and I was watching it. And as soon as it started, I thought, I didn't know what kind of a work it was or if it was a shoot. But I said to myself, and I probably talked to a few guys on the road. I don't, again, just time frame. But I remember the person I was with saying, that guy right there, who she didn't know who he was, but I did, of course. I said, that guy right there is going to win us already. Whether it's a work or not, that person is going to win this thing. Mm-hmm. Dr. Destiny was the man. He's going to go through there and just beat the piss out of everyone, and it's going to be no contest. That's the way I felt when that thing first started.
Yeah, not
even a question to me. Without knowing what was going on at the time, not with hindsight being 2020, I'm adding it right now. I'm talking about the time that this was taking place. I was like, this is what's going to happen. He's going to go through these people. Like I said, through a hot knife through melted butter, he's going to go through them. And, obviously that's not what happened. Smarten us up about this brawl for all, Jeremy.
Well, this is one of Vince Russo's fucking brilliant ideas, right?
Not a fan. Sorry.
Yeah. So I called this one, this is one, something we riff on all the time here, but I called this one, emergency rooms and brawl for alls are full of tough guys.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So apparently JBL was saying that he could beat anybody in the company at the WWF at the time in a bar brawl. And Vince Russo, being a keyboard tough guy, thought, well, I'll fucking show him, bro. I'll put together a shoot fight, and then we'll be on somebody will beat his ass. And, apparently the idea was they were going to push Steve Williams. Somehow they were going to guarantee a shoot fight win to a guy. I don't know what the thinking was there. I mean, obviously the guy's tough, but you know what? I've also seen a little guy knock out a big son of a bitch with a lucky shot to the button too. Fucking, Joey Styles knocked out fucking JBL with one punch. You never know who's going to take a swing and fucking pull it off. So Dr. Death goes in, and son of a bitch, if Bart Gunn didn't knock him out.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, a lot of people got hurt here. This was kind of.
Yeah, no, Dan Severn pulled out like a smart man would.
Yeah.
But there were people getting legitimate injuries in this, It may have looked good as a work on paper, but man, it just, as we know now, it just really, I think it's, to sum it up, it ended up kind of being a clusterfuck. And that hurt Doc's run before he even got started, as you put in our notes here.
Oh, yeah.
He was a little bit maybe older. Well, obviously he was older, where he had that hardcore Japanese style, sustaining a lot of injuries there. Now, he didn't break his leg or this or that, not huge injury, but I'm talking about nagging injuries at that point in your career, and slowed down probably a step at that point in his career. And I know we're putting Doc over, just saying, this might not have been the right time for his career for that WWE run to put him in there during this, because they could have put him in a so much better fashion. Let's just ignite it. They had this, brawl for all, and everyone's not going to the hospital or dropping out or just even if they go to the hospital getting injuries that would take weeks to heal. They could have brought Doc in and gave him a push, and he could have done his style there. But I think you and I both know, and I think JR, again, staying on the train there, man, that's his guy. It just was unfortunate the way it happened, and who knows if he would have been able to do that kind of style in New York and extend his career, because of the way he was already used to going so balls to the wall anyway, through NWA or Mid-South NWA and through Japan. I don't know what kind of fit, because he would have probably had to slow down a whole lot, and I don't know if Doc could have done that.
Yeah, and Bobby, I'm going to just kind of ask you this and kind of riff on this for a second. Dr. Death does not seem like a good fit for the WWF to me.
No.
Stylistically, looks-wise, and anything,
That's what I was getting at. I don't know. They could have brought him in. Let's just, like I said, ignite that. If they brought him in. I don't know how you do it because he's not a creation of Vince. You know what I'm saying? The look is different. The size is different. The athleticism and the intensity, all those things. To me, it's, again, I just do not think he'd have been a good fit in WWE. And then from an insider's point, the locker room politics, I didn't know Doc personally. I've only heard, second, third hand stories and things like that. Just nothing bad, just saying. But he was his own man. And I don't know, and with the cliques that were in WWE, I don't know that, he fits in with anyone there really other than JR. Maybe not a couple. I'm sure he'd get along with anyone. Hell, he got along with people throughout his whole career. I'm just saying, I just don't see it being a good fit either. I really don't. I could see him like, couple of weeks on the road, be like Terry Funk. I gotta leave you. Hey, tell Vince I go check on a sick horse, and just leave it in the middle of the night because, and that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Had he got that big run, I just don't. What do? Do you change his name? No, everyone knows who the fuck he is. Do you change his look? I don't care if you put a mask on him. That body, you know who the fuck that is.
Yeah.
Cut his hair different. Wear face paint. Anything. I don't see how you'd not bring him in as Dr. Death Steve Williams. Or if you just say, okay, he's Steve Williams. He's an All-American without the Dr. Death. Or vice versa. He's just Dr. Death, only no Steve Williams. I just don't see it. I honestly do not see it as a good fit. Defend me or argue with me. What do you think?
No,
I know what you said at the beginning. What do you think for real? Could you do anything with it?
So you're talking about like putting him under a hood. Remember when they tried that with Billy Jack?
Yeah.
And they used that black blood or whatever the fuck they
Black blood, yeah.
And you looked at that and you went, oh, that's Billy Jack with a mask. Like you're saying there, Dr. Death, you can't hide him under a hood. You're going to know. He's going to wrestle his style. It's going to look like him. Honestly, I think his best move was Japan at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bill Watts, Bill Watts could do something with the Steve Williams. Bill Watts knew how to do something with the Steve Williams. I don't know that any other American promoter did at the time.
Yeah. I don't know. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't see him being on that New York TV though. Very long if he did.
No, he wasn't flashy enough. He wasn't super charismatic. He was just a tough son of a bitch,
Yeah, absolutely. And schedule-wise, he could have adapted to that where he'd been in Japan doing those top tours. He could have adapted going 20, 21 days, be off for a few days and hit road again, I don't think he had a big problem with that. I think more so maybe in the locker room that, hey, don't get under my fucking skin. I've been on the road for 3 days or 3 weeks,
Yeah.
Today's the wrong day, cocksucker. And, not saying a doc talk like that. I'm just saying it wouldn't have taken much for him to come out behind that curtain and scare about 20 motherfuckers away, all of them being the boys in the back going, hey, man, it's all Doc of Catering. Stay away from him today.
Yeah. Don't push your luck today.
Yeah, don't push your luck today. That's just my opinion. So, and I think we both share that same view, it seems like, obviously. And I bet some of our listeners do too as well. So, let's jump to number 2.
Yes, number 2.
UWF champion.
So, I know that the UWF was only there for a short period of time, right? But the guys who became UWF champion were all super tough sons of bitches, and Doc was one of them, and I have to put that there. Now, I realize it's a little fanboyish of me.
No. We know we're an old school wrestling podcast, and we have a great audience, and we thank you all, wrestling fans, for tuning in to us. But yeah, that's where that goes. That goes, that needs a plug up there at the very top. It kind of justifies like you said up here earlier, you would have put that higher, the Miracle Violence connection, but no, this is where Doc got his roots at, man, out there in Oklahoma and working for Watts and the UWF and all the great talent that came through there, the DiBiase's and the JYDs and the, just the whole roster through that time period, man, Gordy's and stuff. So, hell yeah. that ranks high. UWF champion, man. That says a lot.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm just going to list these names real quick here. Terry Gordy, One Man Gang, Big Bubba, and Dr. Death. Those are all your UWF champions.
Yeah. All big, strong, and tough.
Yep. All big, strong,
athletic
sons of bitches. Yeah.
Yep. And, you look at One Man Gang and Big Bubba, as big as they were fucking athletic. They could move. They gave bumps and took bumps. They just didn't stand there like, a big, heavy guy. Obviously Gordy and Williams stand alone in their athletic abilities.
Yeah.
But some people think, oh, well, Big Bubba. But no, he could actually move, as could Akeem or One Man Gang.
I was just going to say, One Man Gang was a hell of a dancer, too.
Yes, he was. Yeah. Yes, he was. Well, we're getting ready to close down shop, Jeremy. We got one more, and that's our number one. I'll let you bring it up, do our number one here after UWF champion. What is number one about Dr. Death Steve Williams?
Well, only the good die young. Doc passed away of cancer at the age of 49.
Throat cancer.
Yeah, which sounds real young to me these days.
Yeah. Myself as well.
Yeah.
It's really sad that, he had to go through that. But like you said, only the good die young. Man, he just one of great all-time talents, 6'1", 6'2", somewhere in the range of 280, 290, depending. Big cock strong. Worked out the weights, worked out in the wrestling, in the mats and the ring. So he had technical, good psychology. He pretty much had it all, man. And the Japanese style really fit his style because he didn't have to talk a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
And he let his talking do the talking he did it in the ring. And what it said was, hey, don't fuck with me. I'm Dr. Death Steve Williams. And we are very fortunate. I kind of bring it down just the tone here, Jeremy, when you say that's young. Yes, it is. But here's the thing. For about, 35 years of our life, we got to watch a Dr. Death Steve Williams, his career beginning and flourishing, and seeing the success he had. And that's why he's, our podcast this week. That's why we're talking about him. Yep. And we're keeping his name out there. And again, just a couple of things off the top of my mind for this episode, wrestling fans. Again, hit us up out there on Twitter world about that. Who was it on the flapjack? Who took that bump? That's one question that comes to mind. If you go back and watch the Mishawa fight, a couple of those, that comes to my mind. If you got anything on Dr. Death you'd like to send our way, if we missed something, let us know. Like, hey, why didn't you mention this? Did you forget it? Well, the thing is, this is our top 10, and we're trying to, smarten you all up as we smarten ourselves up as someone that we got to enjoy their wrestling career. And we don't always get it right, but you know what? It's our top 10, and I agree with Jeremy, man. Only the good die young, and sadly, Doc is no longer with them. But through a podcast like this, we can relive some of his greatest moments and contributions to the world of professional wrestling.
Yep, exactly. And that's kind of why we do the show we do,
Yeah.
We're here to talk, man. Yeah, we're here to talk about forgotten or old school wrestling stuff, Meatloaf and so
Meatloaf. Yeah.
Oh.
That's it, man. I had some Meatloaf Friday. I was not disappointed. I'll say that.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't make it. I make a pretty good meatloaf, but I just haven't done it for a while. I bought some. We're here to have a good time too, and we hope you all have a good time. Hope you enjoy it. I do know this. We've got, just so you know, we've got kind of a theme for this month, the month of October, that we plan on going with it. We also have a possibility of an interview I mentioned up earlier at the top of the show. And we've got another couple year in, not year ending, but the year in a certain date. And then we got our second class for our Hall of Fame. I think we've got a wrestler, we've got a heel, and did we decide on a manager?
I don't believe we have yet. I don't believe we have.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I might have one in mind, and I might be speaking to one very soon. That's just, Jeremy, I haven't told you that because I can't say it right now, but might be having on November 6th, our podcast. Our goal is in Ashland, Kentucky on November 6th, there's a Bluegrass Con. It's going to be in downtown Ashland at the Highland Museum. I am going to be there. It's presented by the Time Warp and FTC Wrestling. Lex Luger's going to be there. The Godfather's going to be there. Gail Kim's going to be there. Stan the Man Hansen's going to be there. As is Magnum TA, and a handful of others. Unless they have been sponsored by FTC or Time Warp, I cannot, unless a contract has been signed, I've been asked not to mention their names, but I know of at least 3 other people. I can mention Rhino. He has legitimately been signed through the agent and also, on a contract. But there's a manager, very possibility, Jeremy, to go back to our Hall of Fame. We'll see. And there's several other people, some of the older wrestlers that are still out doing some of the conventions. But again, it's November 6th. You'll also get to see some up-and-coming talent, some of the people from FTC, ASW, and other areas that, do come in with the younger talent will be there on hand as well. They'll be assisting some of the veterans, including myself. But again, shout out to Earl down at Time Warp. Shout out to Joe at FTC. Should be a really good deal. I love it for 2 reasons. One, because it's a professional wrestling event and they're really trying to build this thing up. And the way they're doing it, it's going to hopefully be something annual, but it's going to go between Lexicon and Lexington, Kentucky, which is about, hour and a half, 2 hours away. And also WrestleCade, which takes place, it's about 4.5 hours away. And we're right in that area, but we're building some things up here. And also, it's because it's in my hometown, and I know a lot of wrestling fans here, but I want to see the good people of Ashland get out and support something like this, show some local support for people that are local businesses that are trying to do something positive with their business and bringing tourism and money into the community, And Jeremy, we'll get you out here one year too, buddy.
I know. And we're still working on it.
And I know we're going to try to get to Cauliflower Alley one day. We're going to try to do that trip together one day. We've got big plans, but I'm just saying we got other stuff going on. But what I was getting to real quickly, the November 6th show, we're going to be recording some interviews with some of the people I mentioned. Now, I can't guarantee who's going to come in and who's not, but my deal is I'm going to be there. I've got a couple of tables in addition to, merchandise, t-shirt, books, 8x10 selfies, got all kinds of gimmicks there for merch. We're going to be recording the podcast and we're going to take 5 to 10 minutes. Whoever will come on to the program, I'll lead them over. I'll give them to the good professor. I'll give him a heads up who's coming on next, and he can have some research, have some questions, and hopefully you get some interviews of what these guys and girls are up to nowadays, and some of your favorite wrestlers when you was growing up, or even, as an adult that you like to learn a little bit more about or hear about, see how they're doing. But just throwing that out there, Jeremy.
No, that's going to be
awesome. Manager could be coming, as could a couple other people, and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, that's, I'm really excited. I always make fun of people outside of California who don't understand the geography or layout of California. And then, Bobby, a couple weeks ago, I demonstrated my lack of intelligence about Kentucky. I saw that there was an NWA, pay-per-view that was going to be filmed out there. And I thought, well, that can't be far from Bobby. So I asked you where it was. And you're like, oh, yeah, it's about 6 hours from here.
Yeah.
Shit.
Ashland, Kentucky, to Paducah, Kentucky, if you go across the state, east to west or west to east, as it may be, it's about an 8-hour trip that away, man. It's pretty wide. I go down there to Paducah and be the Duke of Paducah, as Lionel once told me on a Tampa radio station, but that's neither here or there. And then really, you've got several major cities, Lexington, Louisville, Frankfurt, our capital, is like right in between those two. Those are all, Lexington's an hour and a half, Louisville's 3 hours. Where I'm at in eastern Kentucky, I can get to several of these towns I mentioned that we've had wrestling at, off in about an hour and a half drive, sometimes 2, depending on the curvy, which way the dog's rear leg, bending that day.
Yep.
But no, when you got there to central Kentucky, that show there wasn't even really central. That show was because you go to central down around Bowling Green, that area down there, it's just a half an hour from Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm 5 hours from Nashville. But if you're in that area, Clarksville, Tennessee, and if you go right there on that part of the border, not too far from Nashville that way, like half hour lickety split. But that show looked like it was going to be further out past Bowling Green and not quite to Paducah. And I can't recall the town, or I would. I think it was maybe it's Christian County or Hopkinsville. I honestly do not know that. But when you sent that to me, I was like, that's like 5.5 on a good day, probably 6 hours away,
Yeah, so I was over here thinking, oh, fuck, it'd be awesome. I'd fly out there for that, get us tickets, we'll go watch the NWA tapings. And then you're like, 5-6 hours. Like, fuck that.
Now, Alice Cooper's coming this month to the Expo Center in Pikeville, where we used to wrestle there at the college, and that's about an hour and a half away. And Ace Frehley's opening up for him, just so you know.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that's what they're really. It's sometime this month. I don't have tickets. I know a couple people do. I had a chance a couple years ago. Don't kick me in the ass. He was in Charleston, West Virginia, which is about an hour from here. But the two people I asked, my brother and one of my best friends, we all three were just like, not really that interested for that price, to be honest with you. At that time too, it just But anyway, just let you know. There's shit that happens that goes on around here that can be an hour and a half away, and there's a couple guys came in last night to that show. Columbus, Ohio is just 2 hours away. Closest big city for what would be a diamond or a 5-star city would be Cincinnati, Ohio, is about 2.5 hours away. So, just geographically, we're right there, man. Where, take a little trip and, Cleveland's just 4.5 hours away.
Yeah.
That's not that bad. Pittsburgh's 5 hours away. DC's 4.5 to 5, depending on which side you hit traffic on. Some people make it 6, but that's on you people, not me. I'm just telling you what I know. But yeah. But anyway, that's kind of just a tour of shit that can go on out here in this area, man. In addition to, it's raining all day today, raining all day tomorrow, and fall is coming. And I've really started loving fall. I used to be a spring person. I'm really beginning for the last several years enjoying fall in Kentucky. It's so beautiful here, Jeremy, and throughout the Southeast. And one day you get to come out here and spend a couple of days or a week or so, man. We'll look forward to having you in.
Oh, yeah, that's certainly the plan. I'd love to get out there, obviously check out some wrestling of some kind while I'm there.
Yes.
Check out the Time Warp. Of course, me, I have to go bar to restaurant for a bit, too, just because I'm a glutton. But that is planned. We just got to figure out how to make it happen.
All right, man. All right. Well, any words of wisdom this week before we sign off here? I really enjoyed this topic this week.
Yeah, this was fun. I had a good time with this one. No, I think I'm done unless you want to say something like, when Chuck Norris goes to sleep at night, he looks under his bed for Arn Anderson.
And with that, this is Double B, Bobby Blaze saying, see you along, wrestling fans. Look under my bed now, damn it.